I'm just going to sieve some compost today. Still using that old stuff because we're not planting much at this time of year. I always use the old compost from containers and then I just amend it with fertiliser. Saves me spending money early in season. We always keep the scraps as well. They come in very handy for putting it in bottoms of your containers. We've already added fertiliser to this tray, so there's plenty of nutrition in it, and I'm just mixing in a little bit more. Because what I'm going to do today is sow some spinach. It's a very good idea, if you like spinach, to start it off quite early in season, because it's susceptible to bolting when it gets too warm. If you sow it during summer, there's a very good chance you'll get nothing from it. It'll just go to seed. It's just too warm for it. So mid-February is the perfect time to start off some spinach. You can sow it in your containers, your pots, prick it out as individual plants, or you can just grow it as a big bunch, cut and come again. So it's a very versatile plant and quite nutritious. And there's lots and lots of different types of spinach out there. But if you're looking for true spinach, don't plant something like perpetual spinach, because that's actually a member of chard or beet family. So it's not a true spinach at all. We've got one called Matador, which gives you the nice little leaves that you want. But although spinach doesn't like to be too hot, it also needs a warm temperature to germinate as well. So somewhere between 50 and 70 degrees, which makes it ideal to put in a little container and just put it in your kitchen. Just pop it on your windowsill where it's nice and sunny, but you won't need the sun until those seeds have actually germinated. And then you can start bringing it in and out when we get nice sunny days. When they get here, we've got quite a bit of sun on way today for this afternoon, so I thought it's a good idea to come out and start off that early spinach. We'll get quite a few cuttings from it between now and midsummer when it's going to be too hot. So if you do like your spinach, start some off now, keep it indoors to germinate, and then do whatever you want to do with it, whether you transfer it to a big container or you want to grow individual little plants. That's entirely up to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant it in one of these. We get these containers from Poundland, and we use them quite a lot because they're a good size, they're a good depth. You just need to make bigger holes in the bottom of them because the holes that they come with aren't quite big enough. You don't get very good drainage, so we make lots of extra ones, and that does job. And we'll also be using these caravan wash bowls as well. We got loads of these last year, and there was also quite popular on channel. There was a lot of people that were searching for them because, once again, the nice deep containers, they don't take up a lot of space or a lot of compost, and you can grow all sorts of things in them, even little onions. I think we did about 15 of these last year, and we had all different varieties of things growing in them, and we got some really good harvests, as you'll probably remember. Or you could opt for something like that, a fancy little barrel looking one. Things like this are probably more suitable for indoors because they look a little bit more decorative. Not that that matters to me. If it grows, it grows, and that's the only reason I'm doing it. So something like that. Perfect to start your spinach. And those containers you can get from Poundland, and once it passes Valentine's Day, which it has, that's when places like Poundland start getting in a little bit of gardening stuff. They don't get it all in at once, but they will start to put some on shelves. So things like that you'll be able to pop down and just grab a couple just to start you off at this early part of the season. But just before I do that, because we've got this sun coming out today and it is a little bit warmer, we need to go and check those broad beans out, because I think it's come time now to take those bottles off that we put on top to protect them. They will be getting too big for those bottles now, so we'd best take them off, give them a bit of airflow, and then hope the slugs don't get to them over the next few days. Let's go and take a look and see how the broad beans have got on. Well, as you can see, they're growing away quite happily, but it looks like pretty much everyone has now reached the tops of those bottles, so it's definitely time to take them off. We don't want to restrict the growth, so we'll pop that one off there, and then you can see just how much that's opened up now. It's a nice little plant and there's no damage from slugs. which is one of your biggest nightmares when it comes to broad beans. So we best give them all a new lease of life. And you can see that these are leaning a little, but what I'll do is I'll put some little canes in there to help them out. Something like that will do. I'll just straighten it a little bit, use those leaves to hold it in position, and then just pop that into that compost. And then as this grows, we can tie it to these canes, make it more stable. And that's especially important if you're growing it outdoors, because we've still got some winds to come. So we'll just grow along and release them. This one's got a bit of chewing on leaf, but I think that might have been due to getting a bit of slug damage before we brought them in here. So there we go. Nice little plants. That's just dirt that's on them at the moment. That one has been attacked by slugs. You can see at the bottom where something's got to that. And there is your culprit. That one has found a way in, probably dug underneath, and then had a little feast on this particular plant. So that can go outside. But the rest of them seem perfectly fine. They've got established now and they're on the way. So we'll keep a check on those for slugs and offer them a bit of support as they need it. Slugs are definitely your worst enemy as you go through the season, especially when it comes to your tender greens. Once they get into them, they'll not last 5 minutes. You need to keep your eye on that and do something to try and stop those slugs getting to your plants. If it's only what I just did, find one, pick it up and throw it away. But they've now got some more breathing space, so hopefully those plants are going to pick up. And it's a good job I did that, because as you can probably see, that sun has now come fully out and it's going to be out all afternoon. So because we've got those plastic bottles over the top, it's going to eat up probably too much, and your leaves run risk of turning yellow. They could dry out against that plastic surface. It was only a temporary measure anyway, but at least we've got them to a good 6 inches tall, and only one that's got a little bit of damage. But we're about spinach today, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to pop a bit of this old stuff that's not been sieved in bottom, and that's going to save us the better quality stuff that we've just done. So just a bit in bottom of there, and then I'm going to top it off with this stuff that we've had feed to. I'm just going to firm that down a little bit, not too much. So that's his container set up, and we can get some seeds sown now, and that's going to be his first spinach for 2024 on its way. And I will take this back indoors and just pop it on the kitchen window. It just makes perfect sense at this time of year to give them the best start that they can, and that little few degrees of warmth indoors is going to make all the difference. Oh, let's sow his seeds. So as you can see, I've just made a level base. We don't need to compact it down, but I also like to make sure we've got some moisture in there. So we'll make sure of that right now. So basically we're going to just multi-sow these spinach seeds. Got quite big, so no problem seeing them at all. So the idea is to just broadcast over the top, just trying to leave a bit of a gap in between each seed. Of course you don't have to put this many in, but I like to get a good bunch of spinach growing in a container, and then we cut away bigger leaves and let the smaller ones grow on. That way, as cut and come again spinach lasts us a little bit longer. So you can see that we're putting quite a lot of seeds in there, and I think that will do. And once we get this growing and the plants reach a decent size and we can start to harvest, we'll sow another container exactly the same, and then we can just carry on that harvest for weeks and weeks. This is first stage, and I'm going to cover them with a colander. I only do this because it gives those seeds a really light covering. So as soon as they germinate, they're going to break through that compost and we're on his way. Of course, if you want to just cover it up normally, there's no problem with you doing that. This is just the way that I've always done it. And you can see it only takes a few seconds and those seeds are starting to disappear. And at that, we're all done. So a very light watering to the top of that, and that's your spinach setup. There is just one other thing that I like to do when we've got to that stage, and we've gave them another watering, so we've got moisture in that container. So the best thing to do at this stage is to cover that with cling film and create a propagator for basically free, and that is going to hold that moisture in. So you won't have to water them while they're indoors. Obviously keep your eye on them in case they do dry out, but 9 times out of 10, once you've done that, that'll constantly maintain some moisture and give your seeds the best possible start. So as I keep saying, at this point of year, there's not a lot that you can be doing, not safely and especially outdoors. But every other day, we're doing a little bit of something. We've got quite a few bits and bobs on go at the moment. Yesterday, we set up those onion sets. And Anne did mention those onion sets to me and said she'd virtually buried them, just left the little top sticking out a tiny bit. That's perfectly fine. Those green shoots will easily push through and your onions will be alright, so no need to disturb them once you've put them in. It's just that if it gets really cold, you're going to need to chuck some fleece over the top. Or maybe, if you get really rainy conditions, cover them with some plastic so the water runs off and they're not constantly saturated. But anyway, we've got those underway on the bench behind me, and we've now got the spinach all set up. So each thing in its own time. It's essential to get the spinach started as early as you can, because once this weather gets bright, sunny and really hot, it's going to be too difficult to grow it, unless you grow it in a very shady area. But they do need some degree of sun, 4 to 6 hours a day. So you can't just grow them in a completely shady area. And it's more about the temperature. As soon as we start to hit the high 70s, that's when it's likely to bolt. And by doing what we've done today, we're guaranteed to get quite a lot of harvests of spinach before we even get to that time. So if you've not already done it, or you've never thought of doing it, and you want to sow spinach, anytime between now and the end of spring, get some underway. And if you want to see how ours gets on and what else we're going to be doing over the next couple of months, then please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.